You know what's one of the greatest things about Legend of the Five Rings? Duels. The nail-biting anticipation, the idea that you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you can be mechanically better at dueling, but there's still that chance, you know? That a great duelist can make a mistake or a lousy one can get lucky. It's a really cool feature of the setting. I'm amazed that the current edition of L5R doesn't have an expanded dueling system in place. You know, new rules to capture the different feel of different duels. I mean, they've expanded their intrigue rules a few different times, and I don't even like those rules. Stop shoving them down my throat, please. I don't need to roll dice to do good roleplay. I guess it's up to me to fill in the blanks. So I put together a few rules you can use to simulate wrestling matches. Board, card, and dice game. And lastly, I threw in a kids game. All of this was inspired by a recent game of L5R I played with my friends on my companion channel, Dead Unicorn Live. Links below if you want to check that out. And if you like that sort of thing, you can subscribe over there as well. In it, all the PCs are having a party at a sake house. They were arm wrestling, playing Daruma Toshi, you know, that kids game akin to Jenga. I tried to use the dynamic duel rules and found them lacking for these types of competition. So after the game, I got to work on some new rules to help smooth things out in the future. And I'd like to pass them on to you so you can have more options for dueling. First, let's go over Daruma Toshi. This is an old kids game from Japan where color blocks are stacked up and capped with a headpiece representing Buddha. But for L5R, you can make it Shinsei or a Fortune or even a Kami. You want to knock down Lord Hida or Lady Doji? Well, here's your chance. So the object of the game is to take a hammer and knock out each block without knocking, the head over. It's a pretty straightforward solitaire game, but I had to put an L5R twist to it. Since there are usually 5 blocks in a Daruma Toshi, it seemed perfect to fit it with the 5 elemental stances. That means for every block, a character has to use a different ring. Add to that the fact that difficulty increases the more blocks you remove, and you have something that requires a bit of forethought and strategy on how to win. But you didn't come here for kids games, did you? You want some real duels. Well, I added 2 new types of duels that modify the rules in interesting ways: wrestling and games. While these 2 types of duels have their own kind of feel, they both have something in common: a feeling of anticipation when it comes to winning or losing. You can see in a wrestling match who's driven closer to the edge of a ring, or in a board game you can see who has the advantage just by looking at it. I wanted to express this in the L5R game, so I took the momentum rules from intrigue conflicts and applied it here. I mean, we really should do something with those rules, right? And they seem perfect for these types of duels. Both of these duels keep rising the strife levels and keeps the finishing moves we expect from duels, anticipating what ring a character would use, all of that kind of stuff. You can even wear an opponent out in wrestling by attacking their fatigue. In games like board games or card games, there isn't any fatigue loss from the encounter. I mean, technically you can use a strike action in the middle of cards, but I'm assuming you're pretty dishonorable if you're pulling that off. In wrestling, I've added 2 new actions. Push, meant to take your opponent to the boundary of the match in order to get a ring out, and hold, meant to wear your opponent down. Games have even more actions: advance, invite, risk, bluff, and intuit, each based on a different ring and can change the game in more interesting ways. You can even bet money on a game, and there are mechanics for raising the pot through opportunity use. You can find the complete rules in the link below. If you use them, tell me how it went, or how you would use these rules or change these rules to better fit your campaign. My goal is for this to be a living document that changes with people's experiences, so it can become a finely crafted and honed rule set that completely captures the feel of competition in L5R. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe. More videos are on the way, and I'd hate for you to miss out. If you really want to support me, consider becoming a patron. You can join these awesome folks here in the Order of the Dead Unicorn and show your love for the content I make, both here on YouTube and the documents that help flesh out your favorite game.